Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our 45th anniversary celebration. My name is Monty Logan. I am the president of the Amherstburg Freedom Museum. On behalf of the board of directors, I thank you for joining us as we celebrate this significant milestone. Over 45 years ago, Max Simpson wanted to do something tangible to ensure that our stories, your stories, were told so that future generations could claim the dignity, strength, and purpose of being that comes from understanding our history. In 1975, Mac and Betty Simpson founded the museum with the mission to establish a community-based, non-profit museum that tells the stories of African Canadians and their journeys and their contributions by preserving and presenting artifacts that educate and inspire. Since then, we have been dedicated to serving the community by curating and sharing our stories, the stories of the descendants of the Underground Railroad and our Black community. And today we are excited to share with you the history of the museum. Over the years, the museum has had many notable moments, beginning with the establishment of the North American Black Historical Museum, its grand opening, the resurrection of the Nazarene Church, the Freedom Landing festivals, the Emancipation celebrations, Ribs and Ragtime, the Freedom Summit, the Freedom Achievers Program, and capital improvements for the interior and exterior of the museum. Through it all, generous donors at all levels of government, public and private sector have partnered with and supported us. Additionally, dedicated past and present board members, staff, and volunteers have devoted significant time and energy to supporting and maintaining our important institution. And we are so grateful to you all, and we look forward to sharing another 45 years with you. Before the program begins, I want to encourage you to donate to the Amherstburg Freedom Museum so that we can continue to share our stories of the Underground Railroad and Black settlements in Canada with our online followers, as well as the visitors to the museum who travel all around the world to come visit and understand and learn our history. Even small donations will make a difference. We thank you for joining us as we celebrate 45 years of hard work and dedication to sharing Canadian history. We are grateful to you all for your continued support, and we hope you enjoy the program. Thank you, and be safe.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun, let us march on till victory is won.
Good morning, and welcome to this virtual event celebrating the 45th anniversary of the Amherstburg Freedom Museum, located in the heart of Amherstburg, Ontario. Amherstburg was a landing site of the Underground Railroad, where many freedom seekers in the U.S. sought freedom and safety, as well as a new home in Canada. With such a rich history, the town became a focal point where the history and culture of Black Canadians could be studied and shared. In 1966, Max Simpson, a resident of the town, along with the pastor and other members of the Nazarene African Methodist Episcopal Church, raised money to build a museum hall attached to the church on King Street. This annex, called the Reverend L.O. Jenkins Memorial Hall, held artifacts and was later replaced by the main building, which houses the permanent exhibit today. The museum, incorporated in 1975, is a community-based, non-profit organization that tells Amherstburg stories of the Underground Railroad and the journey and contributions of Black Canadians that educate and inspire us all. We are thrilled that you have decided to join us today for this celebration. It will occur in two parts. The first is a virtual event and will feature performances, interviews, and an online auction. The second part is an open house on the grounds of the museum from 1 o'clock to 3:30 p.m. To ensure that we maintain safety in this COVID environment, mask wearing and social distancing will be required. There will be entertainment, a contest for the most creative mask, and a small gift of appreciation from us to you, our supporters. As you may already know, the silent auction began on Monday, September 14th, and continues online until Monday, September 28th. So let's get started with how to bid on the auction items. There are many fabulous items on which you can bid. To place a bid, please open the link provided, which is afm45.givesmart.com. Register yourself as a bidder and add your credit card information. Browse through the selections of items and click on the items on which you would like to bid. Then all you have to do is type in the bid amount you would like to place. All items must be picked up here at the museum. Please call to book a time to pick up your prize. Throughout the program, we will share congratulatory messages, interviews with individuals who have contributed to the culture and history of the museum, and a tour of the church in the museum complex. But first, here are some messages from members of our board welcoming you to our event.
Hi, and welcome. My name is Barb Porter, and I'm the Vice President and Fundraising Chair for the Amherstburg Freedom Museum. Welcome to our 45th anniversary event. At this time, I would like to thank our community, our volunteers, our staff, and all you donors out there that have supported us throughout the years. Please enjoy yourself, and thank you again.
Hello everyone, my name is David Van Dyke, and I'm a member of the Amherstburg Freedom Museum Board of Directors. I'm also a descendant of formerly enslaved people who's escaped to Canada for freedom. So it's been 45 years since the museum started, and I'll tell you, if the next 45 years are like the past, it's going to be fantastic. Congratulations to the museum for lasting this long and being on strong footing for the next 45.
Greetings. I'm Dr. Barbara K. Hughes Smith, a proud member of the Board of Directors of the Amherstburg Freedom Museum. Did you know that Amherstburg was the last and final stop on the Underground Railroad for thousands of Black Canadians whose descendants generationally support the Amherstburg Freedom Museum through volunteerism, programming, and other services such as soliciting memberships and sitting on the board of directors like myself. Also, I hope you are a lucky winner on our 45th anniversary virtual auction. So we look forward to your continued support and hopefully next year in person so you can tour our beautiful historic Amherstburg and of course our museum.
Hello, my name is Shanice Johnson, Board Director of Amherstburg Freedom Museum. We'd like to thank you and welcome you for helping us celebrate our 45th year anniversary.
Let's listen now to some of the many good wishes sent to us by local politicians and community organizations.
Hello, I'm Mayor Aldo DiCarlo, and I'm at one of Amherstburg's most significant historical sites, the Amherstburg Freedom Museum. Since 1975, the Amherstburg Freedom Museum has been an instrumental beacon, a place of education and understanding for keeping Black history at the forefront of our region. This is especially crucial in today's world of working to eliminate discrimination. Previously known as the North American Black Historical Museum, the focus of this organization remains to be education within our town, but it reaches way beyond our municipal borders. The Amherstburg Freedom Museum continues to shine a light not only on the Underground Railroad, but also on those pioneers we are so proud to call Canadians. Unfortunately, the ongoing pandemic keeps us from gathering to properly celebrate this milestone for the museum. You can, however, support them in many other ways. Go to amherstburgfreedom.org for more information. So, on behalf of the town of Amherstburg, I would like to thank those who have been part of the vision and dedication to make the 45th anniversary of this National Historic Site a reality. We're all looking forward to gathering here again for the many anniversaries to come. In the meanwhile, they're open. Come see and learn of our history and support this incredible historic treasure called the Amherstburg Freedom Museum.
Hi, folks, Chris Lewis here, your Member of Parliament for Essex. Here at the Amherstburg Freedom Museum. Today we discussed the Underground Rail system as well as the over 200 years of Black history across our region. We celebrate with them their 45th anniversary and we thank them for their dedication. All the best, folks.
Hi everyone, Windsor Mayor Drew Dilkins here, and it is my pleasure to join these many voices in wishing a very happy 45th anniversary to the Amherstburg Freedom Museum. Windsor and Essex County is home to so many countless legacies and stories and contributions of African Canadians throughout our very long history. And founded on the principles of education and preservation, you continue to inspire pride in our Black communities, to remember those gone before us, and of course to keep our eyes trained on a bright future ahead. Thank you, Amherstburg Freedom Museum, and please continue telling these stories for many, many more years to come.
On behalf of the officers and members of the Essex County Black Historical Research Society, I want to offer congratulations to the Amherstburg Freedom Museum on your big anniversary. Black history matters, Black lives matter. Keep up the great work.
Hello, everyone. My name is Miriam Tolson Murty, President of the Our Day Study Club. I would like to take this opportunity on behalf of the members of the Our Day Study Club to wish the Amherstburg Freedom Museum a very happy 45th anniversary. You have supported the Our Day Study Club for many, many years and attending events, sharing information, supporting our scholarship recipients, storing many of our archives, and helping to tell our story, which started way back in 1934 by African Canadian women, all descendants of the Underground Railroad from the Windsor-Essex County region. Thank you for preserving the vision and legacy set in motion for the Amherstburg Freedom Museum by our beloved Mac and Betty Simpson. We thank you for bringing Black history to the masses all year round and helping to share and preserve our stories from the local region and sharing with our community and the world. With your direction, we are ensuring Black history is not only universal, but inspirational. We look forward to the Amherstburg Freedom Museum continuing the legacy and heritage and cultural preservation that you have strived to maintain for another 45 years. Congratulations to you all.
Hi, my name is Trevor Cahoon, aka Kevin, President of the Windsor-West Indian Association, otherwise known as the Caribbean Center. On behalf of our organization, executive body, and its viable members, I'd like to express congratulations to Monty Logan and his board of directors at the Amherstburg Freedom Museum. Happy 45th anniversary. Really proud of you guys. I know it's not easy doing what you guys do, but it's times like these where it's ever so important to take the time to reflect and celebrate the moment come September 21st. Lots of history and first times go down in our books of facts from a social, economic, and educational perspective. Nothing to be forgotten, but like I said, celebrated. 45 years is no small feat. We're currently going through one of the largest global pandemics of the century, and in the midst, we're also experiencing visual outpour of our people's inequity, injustice, and threat. Of course, thanks to technology and media of today, nothing new for the museum, because that's what you guys stand for, and it testifies the need for your existence and relevance now. I want to say heartfelt thank you to the Amherstburg Freedom Museum, and again, happy 45th, wishing you many more to come. Take care and enjoy, guys.
The Artists of Color wish to congratulate the Freedom Museum for 45 years of service to this community and for telling our story. Not just our stories, but Canada's story. So we just thank you.
On behalf of the Buxton National Historic Site Museum, we would like to congratulate the Amherstburg Freedom Museum on their 45th anniversary. We applaud the founders, the board, the staff, and the volunteers for your passion and commitment and dedication in preserving the rich history and legacy our ancestors have entrusted with you. Happy anniversary and continued success.
Hello, it's Steve at Uncle Tom's Cabin Historic Site. Happy 45th anniversary, Amherstburg Freedom Museum. You know I love that name, don't you? I think it's because it reminds me of when Josiah Henson arrived on the Canadian shore in 1830. He made a promise to use his freedom well. And that's my wish for you on this special occasion. May the important work you do, being keepers of our history, educating us, challenging us, uniting us, may all your efforts continue to inspire young and old alike to use their freedom well for the next 45 years and beyond. Happy anniversary, guys.
From everyone here at the Chatham-Kent Black Historical Society and Black Mecca Museum, we want to wish our friends at the Amherstburg Freedom Museum a happy 45th anniversary. Congratulations, guys.
Hi, my name is Natasha Henry, and I'm the president of the Ontario Black History Society. I'm pleased to bring greetings from our organization and wishing the Amherstburg Freedom Museum congratulations in celebrating their 45th anniversary. The museum was started based on a vision held by the founders, and that vision has been sustained by committed staff and community supporters throughout the years. I wanted to congratulate you on providing engaging programs and creating a space where people can learn about the rich and diverse histories and experiences of Black Canadians in the Amherstburg and surrounding areas. And thank you for continuing to share this important information in so many ways. We'd like to wish you many more years of success and impact as you continue on in your endeavors.
I want to bring to your attention a couple of auction items that you might consider bidding on. The first is this lovely Swarovski crystal pendant. Absolutely gorgeous. You can see how it catches in the light. Beautiful. You can buy it now for a Christmas present later this year. The second item is a basket of chocolate. Oh my goodness, look at this. It has every kind of chocolate candy you can imagine. This is perfect for you chocoholics out there. So bid on this before it's gone. The following are interviews from friends of the museum who will speak about our history.
I'm Joan Patricia Hurspray, Mac and Betty's child. I am the only child from her first marriage. They were loving and always giving, not only to their community, but to me and my children, Janice and Richie. Their home was always a warm gathering place for family and friends. Dad's dream, after years of research and hard work, became a reality the day of the opening ceremony in 1981, attended by celebrities, reporters, supporters, family members, local residents, and a huge family supporter, contributor, Mayor Eugene Whalen. And Dad passed on from cystic fibrosis months after January the 7th, 1982. Mom continued her involvement in the Women's Auxiliary Organization, which supported and funded for fundraising for the North American Black Historical Museum for years. Her dedication in every way possible to keep the museum open to the public until her long illness and passing on April the 4th, 2014. It was a blessing to return the love and care for her the last 15 years of her life. And it was an honor to keep our museum up and running, to educate others of our past involvement in the historical contributions to our world. Mom and Dad Simpson put everything into our museum and its survival. I wish to thank all of the board members, past and present, donors, supporters, volunteers, presidents, student workers, and everyone, all who visited from all over the world. Also, the Canadian government's assistance in helping to preserve our museum's rich education to the public ongoing. It's important to know where you came from, to know where you're going. That was Dad's motto. Thank you.
My name is Janice Browning, and Mac and Betty Simpson were my grandparents. I was very fortunate because they were extremely kind, caring, and generous. And they married just 2 years before I was born, which was kind of funny, but they were completely and totally in love for as long as I can remember. My mother, Joan, was Betty's only child from a previous marriage to Bernie Hurst. I remember hearing many stories around my grandparents' kitchen table when they were organizing to create the North American Black Historical Museum and Cultural Center. While my grandmother attended to all our needs, keeping us fed and happy, my grandpa could often be heard strategizing and even debating with some of the people who frequently visited their home. I was fortunate enough to overhear conversations about whether Malcolm X or Martin Luther King Jr. had the best strategy for uplifting our race. Those were exciting times and important debates that are prescient today. My grandpa's long-term dream was to build a repository that housed information about the long-neglected history of African Canadians, especially to educate us children, as well as adults in our community, and to share with the larger public. While talking with my mom recently on the phone, she reminded me of what Grandpa used to say. If you don't know where you've come from, then you won't know where you're going. My grandparents dedicated much of their adult lives to preserving the amazing stories of survival and tales of resilience that our ancestors passed on to us. This is not a myopic history, since it straddles continents, embraces multiple generations, and represents epic struggles for survival. Mac and Betty were humble people who were driven by a need to counteract the mainstream racist narrative in order to make a better world for future generations. For my grandparents, opening day of the museum was a dream come true. My grandpa was very sick at that time, but you'd hardly know it by how tall he was standing. My grandma was so nervous about all the dignitaries, as she used to call them, who were coming on that day. I was 16 and a half years old and remember feeling claustrophobic because it was wall-to-wall people. Since that day, tens of thousands of people have traveled from all over the world to learn about our ancestors' fight for survival and their determination to build a better world for generations to come. It was a grand vision building this place in the small town of Amherstburg, and it's so important that it's still there, at the same place where our ancestors kissed the ground when they escaped from slavery. Now in its incarnation as the Amherstburg Freedom Museum, this institution is a testament to the hard work and dedication of the museum's past and present volunteers, staff, board members, and generous donors. It's because of them, many of you, that our history is preserved and shared with the respect it deserves. From the bottom of my heart, and on behalf of my grandparents, thank you.
Hello and greetings from Okinawa, Japan. My name is Richard Gary Browning Levesque, aka Richie Levesque, aka Richie Browning Levesque, aka grandson of Betty and Max Simpson, founders of the Amherstburg Freedom Museum, formerly known as the North American Black Historical Museum and Cultural Center. I consider myself honored and blessed to be part of their lineage and part of the history of this museum. I was born on April 24th, 1966, in Windsor, Ontario, Canada, second child of Joan and Robert Browning. My older sister Janice is a year and 1 month older than me. Now, Joan was the only child of Betty Simpson from her first marriage. And when Betty remarried Mac in the 1960s, he really stepped into a caring and loving role as not only father, but grandfather to myself and my sister. His homestead in Amherstburg, Ontario, Canada, was like a home for us. Now, in the early 1980s, my grandfather's health began to fail. He had cystic fibrosis, but he was committed to his vision of building a museum. And with grants and with local help, they were able to compile the resources necessary to get the museum going. And I remember the process. I remember the groundbreaking. I remember that pretty silver shovel that they used for the groundbreaking ceremony and how it was put up in the museum for so many years. I was just in the neighborhood of 10 years old when the museum opened. And I remember it. It was such a big event. It was something, like I said, that was really going to put Amherstburg on the map for Black history and culture in Canada. I remember so many people being there, prominent people in the community, prominent people in Windsor. I remember all my grandmother's family being there for it. And this being Mac and Betty Simpson's crowning achievement, something that they not only accomplished but gave back to the community and gave back to us, future generations of the family, as something that we can always, I don't know, go to, like a touchstone, like a steadmark, something that will always be in our lives, in our memory as something special and prominent. After the museum opened, that momentum of excitement continued for a while, and tours started coming in immediately. People from Detroit, people from the United States and from different areas of Canada who heard about it and wanted to see. It was a great opportunity for not just my grandparents, but for other Black families in the community to share their stories of their family. And although my life has taken me not only away from the museum in Amherstburg, but away from Canada, my heart is still there, and I visit whenever I'm back. I always carry the memories with me everywhere I go, and just a sense of pride and belonging to such a great landmark, such a great place that is bringing so much knowledge and history and information, not only to Essex County, Ontario, Canada, but to people that come to it from all over the world. So thank you for allowing me to be part of this video and this presentation, and I send my best wishes to the staff and to the people who work there, to the visitors and the people that come there, and to the family and friends that help make the Amherstburg Freedom Museum what it is today. God bless you all.
And now, here are some more messages of congratulations.
Hi, I'm Alan Rawls, a board member of the Motown Museum in Detroit, and I'd like to congratulate the Amherstburg Freedom Museum for their 45th anniversary. You know, museums are some of the most important cultural institutions we have. They help us understand our history, explore art, and help us understand what's going on. So, from our Motown family to the Amherstburg Freedom Museum family, congratulations, and may you have many, many more.
I, President Timothy McAllister, as well as the board and directors, would like to wish the Amherstburg Freedom Museum congratulations on the 45th year anniversary. Anniversary time is to reflect where we come from, who we are, and where we are going.
I, Zania Brockett, the Vice President of the Mission, have seen over the years that your growth has made a tremendous impact on this community. Education and awareness is crucial to our next generation. Continue in the pursuit to ensure that our history will be remembered and celebrated.
May God continue to bless you all.
Happy 45th anniversary, Freedom Museum, and on behalf of both the Amherstburg Community Foundation and the River Bookshop, thank you for educating and inspiring the community for so long. Both the Community Foundation and the Bookshop look forward to working further with you to make living in Amherstburg and Essex County better for everyone. Happy anniversary, and here's to 45 more.
It is an honor for me to be here today to celebrate 45 years that this museum has been in operation in Amherstburg. This museum means more than just a couple of buildings. This museum highlights the struggles and the difficulties of people who came mostly from the United States prior to the Civil War and who came here seeking freedom. They sought and they found a welcoming home. It wasn't always easy, and they were not universally accepted, but they struggled, and the museum highlights the work that they had to do, the building of modest homes, the building of churches, and their integration into the community. I want to congratulate the people who keep this museum going, and most especially the people who helped make it a reality 45 years ago. It is a true testament to Amherstburg, its people, and its history. And I hope that in the future, this museum can highlight not only the struggles of the past, but the continuing struggles of today, and that the people who continue to live in Amherstburg will know the part and the role that they played in history and keep their eyes open all the time to make sure that everyone is treated equally.
Hello, I'm Kathleen Thomas. On behalf of the Board of Directors and staff of the Multicultural Council of Windsor-Essex County, I would like to take the opportunity to congratulate you on your 45th anniversary. The Amherstburg Freedom Museum provides an invaluable link to the racial and cultural history of our region. Your nationally recognized work to protect and preserve the stories and illustrate and illuminate the contributions of African Canadians ensures that their determination and efforts will never go unappreciated. Once again, congratulations on this wonderful anniversary, and thank you for your contributions to creating a welcoming community in Windsor-Essex County.
Congratulations to the Amherstburg Freedom Museum as you celebrate your 45th anniversary. Thank you to the staff, volunteers, and board members for ensuring that history is not forgotten, but rather preserved, so that individuals today and in the future can understand the journey and perseverance of so many that escaped slavery in the United States to Canada, and to learn of Amherstburg's role in that journey. Again, congratulations on your 45th anniversary, and thank you for everything you do for Amherstburg.
On behalf of the Faculty of Human Kinetics at the University of Windsor, and as chair of our faculty's anti-racism subcommittee, I'd like to express our sincere congratulations to the Amherstburg Freedom Museum on continuing to increase Black awareness through curating the unique and important history of our region to the Underground Railroad, the literal life and death struggle for freedom, equality, and equity that Black people in North America have and continue to endure, but also the strengths of this vibrant community. Our hope is that the legacy Max Simpson, the church, and the community built can continue to grow in achieving its goal of helping future generations claim and develop enhanced dignity, strength, and purpose of being. Once again, we would like to congratulate Mary Catherine, the Board of Directors, and the community who have supported this National Historic Site over its lifespan. Here's to another 45 years of the Amherstburg Freedom Museum.
Hi, my name is Marcia Pivot. I am one of the Board of Directors, and I'm here at the Amherstburg Freedom Museum, and I'm here to present another passion I have with Black Kids in Action Performing Arts Group. We'll present to you a performance that they have. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Daniel, and we are from the Black Kids in Action Performing Arts Group. First, we want to say congratulations to the Amherstburg Freedom Museum, celebrating 45 years of its existence. With you, we can tell our stories. The Amherstburg Freedom Museum was founded by Betty and Melvin McSimpson, local resident, and officially incorporated in 1975. Their vision was to promote the rich heritage of African Canadians, many of whose ancestors had come as refugees from slavery from the United States by residents. The Amherstburg Freedom Museum tells a remarkable story of the journeys and contributions made by African Canadians.
Now, I would like to tell you about a couple more items from the auction that you might be interested in. The first one is a football, and this is autographed by Windsor's own Tyrone Crawford. A great gift for all you sports fans out there. The next item is a pasta machine to make your own pasta, and it comes with the bowls and all the trimmings that you need to make your pasta at home. Again, great for you pasta lovers out there. So don't forget to go in and place your bids. Go to afm45.givesmart.com and register yourself as a bidder. So that's these two items that I want to say to you now to get ready for a couple more interviews.
My name is Lois Larkin, and I have been with the museum, for the museum, about the museum since its opening. And I have been on the board 3 different times, in the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s. Betty was bright and bubbly and just very vivacious. Mac was the steady solid person with a beautiful singing voice. And they wanted society, community, to know who we are as a people and what we're about. So many times, people of color are equated with slavery, and we are so much more. And Mac and Betty, with help of people who believed in what they wanted, have done exactly that, to present to the community some of the best of what we are. It was crowded. The street was full. It was just an air of excitement, people moving back and forth and talking with each other. Look how wonderful this is. Isn't it on time? And it was nothing but an air of positive attitude. People of color have been equated with slavery. And if we go back in history to our beginnings, we had so much to offer in the arts, in science, in exploration. Coming over here and being subjected so many years, we began to believe some of the lies that were imposed on us. And it was important to me, as a mother, as an educator, it was important that I had a place to go to take children on enlightenment trips, on tours, and to present to my family and my friends this museum. People are amazed and so willing to learn and appreciative. I'm sure that Mac and Betty would be so happy and so proud of what they initiated. People were anxious to come, and they organized tours. They had activities here. There was some place that we could show our friends and family whenever we came, whenever they came to town to visit us. I wish to applaud the museum. The development that has happened over these last years has just been phenomenal. And I'm very proud to say that we have a museum that tells our story.
My name is Wayne Hurst from the town of Amherstburg. My connection to the museum, I guess you could say, and on two fronts really, because when I think about it, I was mayor for 4 terms in the town of Amherstburg, but aside from that, I've got my great uncle my great grandfather, I should say, had a display here for the one furrow plow that he had made, George Thompson, and along with that, of course, the fact that I live across the street from the museum. Sure, I knew Mac and Betty. Knew Mac simply because he lived right across the street from where I was born, and Mac, his mother and father, Mr. Rome Simpson, and his mother Mabel Simpson. He had a brother Everett, an older brother Wilfred, and Mac, and he had a sister Kathleen. Mac, of course, lived in Amherstburg, and at that time Mac was a florist, and he worked at Gray's Greenhouse in Amherstburg, which at one time was right next to the Legion on Dalhousie Street. And when it burnt, of course, it never went back in business. Mac then became a florist at Stewart's in Windsor. And Mac also, a lot of people probably don't know, he played in a band, and so I knew Mac very well. When you talk about Betty, and I say Aunt Betty because Aunt Betty was at one time married to my father's youngest brother, Bernie, and when that marriage dissolved, of course, she met Mac and they married, but I knew both of them very well, and they both came from good families. They had a very, raised in a friendly environment. They had what we called back then, they were taught the basic needs of a family life. They were taught the importance of integrity and honesty and family values and a good work ethic. And of course, the moral compass in that, as I'm sure you're aware, served them well in the years to come. I think it had a lot to do with it. Mac was very interested. I think starting the museum itself, for Mac, of course, I think it was his way of saying, speaking, and demanding change. And so it was important for him to see that occur in our community. Well, as you can imagine, it was everybody was waiting with anticipation. Once they have learned about the fact Mac was trying to create this museum, they themselves became aware of the fact, the need for this to take place in Amherstburg. And so everybody was excited, and they were pleased that it happened because it gives the community an opportunity to see exactly the valued contributions that were made by the blacks in the town of Amherstburg, not only to the community, but to the country itself. And so it was a sense of self-pride, self-worth, and it looked as if to us it was a time for inclusion. And so we were very pleased with it. I think it was significant to the community, certainly, as I said, significant to myself. But what it meant really was that people would be able to visit Amherstburg and see for themselves exactly the creation of a Black museum within the community and how it helped to make our community an attractive place to visit. So I think it was used as a conduit so we can finally show those valuable contributions, those commitments, those things that were pushed back, if I can use that term, for too long. Never was it mentioned in our school, never was it mentioned in the books that we read about the contributions that the Black race have made. And as I say, not only to the community of Amherstburg, but to the contributions made to our country. Of course, all the politicians that should be there were there, and people came from all over. So that is something that you can reflect back on, and it just brings back memories to the fact at that particular time that this was taking place. And when you think about the tremendous amount of work and the determination that Max himself had in ensuring that this was going to take place, everybody was pleased for it. And it never came without a lot of work. It was a tremendous amount of work. And so for that, we are appreciative of those contributions that Mac made.
My name is Janice Harris. My connection to the museum, Betty Simpson was my mother's baby sister, so that would make Betty and Mac my aunt and uncle. Well, as our family, Betty, her mother was a Holland, and we traced her roots back to Maryland. And I'm sure that that would be one of the reasons why she would want to keep track of the heritage. It was amazing. There were so many people here, so many people. I remember a reporter from the States. His name was Bill Proctor, and he did the coverage for the museum as well as the Nazarene Church. So much of the heritage that we had, and it housed so many families that tried to escape slavery. So that meant part of our heritage. Well, there were so many Black families that lived in Amherstburg, and their heritage went back so far. Don made a list of all of the homes that the Black families lived in. So to have a place where they could describe their the escaping of the slaves. That meant so much to so many people. I do remember Mrs. Bertha Kersey was here, and I couldn't understand for what reason, if she was getting an award of some sort. But then as I read, she was 95 years old, and she had 6 generations at that time. So imagine what she's got today, because some of them are still living in the Harrow area. Well, people would still come, there would be busloads of people that would come and tour the museum. They were interested in seeing history. That I seen busloads of people here. Even one year they had the Emancipation here. Nazarene Church, because I was a member of the AME Church, and I had been there to the service there. Actually, Don and I were the first ones married in the Nazarene Church after they refurbished it. Oh yeah, many congratulations for them to keep the history of this museum going. It's amazing, because there is so much history. Just the little bit that I've collected. There is much more, very much more.
Irene Moore Davis, and I was the daughter of one of the founding board members, the granddaughter of another board member, and I basically grew up here. You know, Mac and Betty were just so proud of their individual family heritage, of both of them, and they were just proud of the whole legacy of the Underground Railroad movement in Amherstburg, all of these individuals who lived in this region and specifically in this town who were so involved, whether they were on the anti-slavery side or formerly enslaved people themselves. And they felt like there was this rich story that needed to be told that wasn't widely known. And they just began to dream big. And Mac especially put just hours and hours of labor into making that happen. And the museum was just getting organized, and there was just a small exhibit space in the former church hall over at Nazarene, AME. It was really interesting to see the level of interest and just community members coming in and wanting to bring donations, bring artifacts and family heirlooms and treasures, and just wanting to be part of this project that they were hearing about. And the way it manifested for me, I was like a really small child, but I kept trying to give my toys to the museum. I kept trying to give my books to Mac, and Mac would read the book with me and then say, "You keep this book, you're gonna love this book." So I wanted to donate too. But there were just all these people who had shown so much pride in holding on to these family artifacts and family records, who just came and brought them by the armload and wanted to make them part of the collection. They were so excited, and there was just such a feeling of optimism in the air all around this community. And so as the museum was actually built, just watching it go up weekend after weekend when I would come out here with my mom, it was such a lovely feeling. And when it finally opened on that big opening day, that was just one of the brightest days of my life to that point. For one thing, I got to sit up on the stage with a bunch of dignitaries. Eugene Whalen was there, and Remo Mancini, and all these people that I thought were very, very special. They were very special. And there was just a great crowd of Underground Railroad descendants mostly, just feeling so much pride that day, and Mac's face was just aglow. He was so happy. For me personally, I had spent so much of my childhood hanging out on this property, basically. My mom was always here giving tours. I would be like spinning around, dancing around the artifacts until they would tell me not to dance around the artifacts. It was really just great to watch the whole process unfold. You know, my mom spent a lot of weekends, a lot of late nights working on this with the other members of the board, and they were a really hard-working board. When you're getting something off the ground for the first time, it's no joke. It's a big process. And everybody on that board had an area of specialization that was so important to them, something they were passionate about. Lyle Browning, using his various networks with government and his fundraising skills. Henry White, using his administrative skills. All of these amazing people bringing what they could to the table, and my mom just bringing her love of history and her basic organizational skills. And all of them were there to support Mac and Betty, especially Mac. And to see that finally come to fruition was such a positive thing. and for the community as a whole too. I mean, it was an era where Roots had really just hit the airwaves, and people were very excited about learning their family history. People had been sort of holding, sheltering, protecting their family history, wanted to express it. They wanted to share it with the next generation and with the wider community. And something that hadn't been valued, something that hadn't really been taught in schools here in Canada, something that hadn't really been given space to be articulated was suddenly getting attention, and people wanted to be part of that. They wanted to show how their own families fit into that wider narrative, and it was so important to so many people. So I mean, if you look at that list of the early donors and the early people who were involved, the committees that existed, the number of volunteers that were giving tours, the number of people that served on what used to be known as the Women's Auxiliary, just running those fundraisers, preparing the refreshments, all of those things, all of those important things and those components of the work. There was just a huge amount of involvement. So a lot of people felt a really personal stake in the opening of this museum and in making sure that it was successful in the early years. There was so much excitement. People came from all over. For one thing, the board and MAC, but especially MAC, had chosen a very grandiose name, if you think about it. It was a small museum in southwestern Ontario, if we think about it in the great scheme of things, but they decided to call it the North American Black Historical Museum and Cultural Center. And both of those things were really important, the cultural center as well as the museum component. It was a place where films were shown, it was a place where art exhibits happened, it was a place where musical performances happened pretty regularly. In this day and age, we've kind of distilled it down to a few events a year that are important and that have a legacy component, but there were a lot of things going on at this property. And lots of people came, lots of tour groups from all over, very impressive historians of African American and African Canadian history, and really history of the African diaspora showed up and made it a priority to come here. And just all kinds of people who were just curious. It was, for a lot of people, their first chance to go through a Black museum and learn about these things that they had kind of seen hinted at on TV or read a little bit about in the news, or maybe they'd heard a little bit about the Underground Railroad. It was really a great way to introduce this whole concept and the details to all of these people. So the place was hopping, and they needed a lot of volunteers to host and take these people on tours and to kind of keep the traffic flow. And that went well into the first several years, so it was really exciting to see that. I did have a front row seat. I spent a lot of Saturday mornings here and sometimes Sunday afternoons, and got to do my homework down in the archives, and fell behind in my homework sometimes because I wanted to read the books or look at stuff instead. They had to teach me about not touching things, maybe putting some gloves on. But it was a great training ground, and it was great to just hear the history told again and again. Sometimes I was behind the front desk and acting as a receptionist in training, I suppose, and just to hear the different tours, the way that everybody would give the tour differently, the way that they would insert their own family history at key components or share things that they were particularly excited about. Everybody had a real sense of what was important to them in this exhibit, and they had certain love or passion for different components. So there were some who were really focused on the military history. There were some who were really focused on the Underground Railroad journeys. There were some who were focused on what were women doing, and how did they display their talents, and how did they contribute to the economy and the community. So all of those things really came out in those tours. I got to overhear a lot, and I still use it all to this day.
Across the courtyard from the museum, we find the iconic stone chapel known as the Nazarene African Methodist Episcopal Church. It was hand-built in 1848 by freedom seekers who escaped slavery in the United States and was a safe haven and final landing point for the Underground Railroad. The church was founded by Noah C.W. Cannon and named after Bishop Willis Nazarene, and over the years has served as a school, a home, and a place of worship. Let's go inside now and take a look at this beautiful church and all its historical meanings and how it has become a focal point for Black history for Canadians. Now that we are inside, let's listen to a bit more history about this beautiful old historic church. In 1888, the church used $1,100 it had raised to install a choir loft, new windows, a new pulpit, and to fix a portion of the roof. Another renovation took place in 1913 to replace half of the roof. Sadly, the museum closed its doors in 1988 as it had fallen into disrepair. After sitting vacant for 10 years, a local citizen, Norm Becker, came to the rescue and enabled the needed renovations, which began in 1999. That same year, the AME Church was recognized as a National Historic Site, making it the first site dedicated to Black history in Canada. The church was reopened on September 23rd, 2000, and is now a part of Amherstburg Freedom Museum Complex. Congregations no longer hold services here, but it has been the site of special events such as weddings, concerts, plays, meetings, public and private events. Next in store is another group of congratulatory messages, followed by our final section of interviews.
Happy 45th anniversary to the Amherstburg Freedom Museum from your colleagues here at Museum Windsor.
Wishing you many more years of your great work researching, interpreting, and exhibiting the stories of African Canadians.
Happy 45th anniversary to the Amherstburg Freedom Museum. Thank you for everything you do to celebrate Black history and to engage with Black youth. Thank you for sharing far and wide the incredible story of the Underground Railroad and the thousands of refugee slaves who first found freedom on Amherstburg's welcoming shores. You are a vital and enduring community pillar. Thank you for continuing to educate, illuminate, inspire, and engage.
On behalf of the Youth Connection Association for Academic Excellence, Inc., I'm taking this opportunity to express our profound appreciation for the wonderful work of the museum.
Hi, I'm at 277 King Street, and I want to congratulate the Amherstburg Freedom Museum on 45 years of existence. I'd like to thank the board members, the volunteers, and all the hard workers that have preserved this gem for us to enjoy it today. Thank you.
I'm Phil Alexander, and I'm on the board of the Amherstburg Freedom Museum, serving as its secretary. As I began contacting some of the museum supporters who were involved from its very beginnings to invite them to share some of their impressions of that time, as we now approach the 45th anniversary of the founding of the museum, I was reminded that the resurrection of Nazareth was really the most crucial event in the life of the museum. Because the church was in such desperate need of repair, and the board was not successful in raising the necessary funds to rescue it, the board decided that for reasons of public safety, the church building had to be demolished. When this decision was made public, people surged forward to offer their help. These offers came from those whose memories of that time are captured in these video clips. The resulting support very rapidly swelled into an army of planners, builders, suppliers, and well-wishers from throughout the community, which helped to induce the federal and provincial governments to make funds available to match the widespread community support. The church was refurbished securely in a manner which allowed some of its historical phases to be seen in various details of its renewed life. It and its supporters became an early major teaching tool for insight into the Underground Railroad and its role in Canada's development toward a nation. I feel proud to have had the privilege of being a part of that group during and since those early times.
I knew Mr. Simpson back in the 70s. I wasn't
exactly attached to the museum in any formal way, but we used to come out here and visit with him and support him. But I became a member of the board about 10 or 15 years after that. And when I was the chair of the board, co-chair of the board with Betty, when we decided to work on the church. Well, as a board, we knew we didn't have any money, so we made a board decision to tear the church down. It was publicized in the Windsor Star. A civil engineer by the name of Norm Becker seen it in the paper. He called me, and we had a conversation. He said, we can't let that happen, so that got the ball rolling. It was a safety hazard. The wall facing the museum was propped up by timbers. It was, it was part of the Underground Railroad, and it was built by the people that came over from the United States to Canada. They built it, right? So that was one of the reasons it was very, very important. It was the center of the community. Norm and I got together and decided that we were going to try to raise some money to do that. There was lots of people involved. I recruited Rodney Davis for the board, Yvette Blackburn for the board, and then my brother at the time, Danny, was working for the federal government, so he got the federal government involved. We got the Canadian Labour Congress involved, the Ontario Federation of Labour involved, the CAW involved, and I think a couple of QP locals. Well, Norm Becker, of course, because he's a civil engineer, and he brought the construction people in. It was all in kind, right? All that work. And it was a huge project. I'm a person that likes to build a team, and we built a real good team. Personally, I didn't see any hiccups. Now, you might have to talk to Norm Becker. He might have seen some hiccup during the reconstruction, but I wasn't part of that. I was involved with raising the money and keeping people on task. It was a continuum. It went on and on and on and on and on until it was God said the way it worked. Because my end of it, I didn't see any problems, but if you ever talk to Norm, he'd probably tell you about some problems they had. But as far as the money was concerned, I don't think we ever had a problem once it got started. We had the gala, the fundraiser, at the Kubota Club in April of 1999. And then it went from there, and I can't remember exactly when it ended. But Betty was there, of course, and there was a lot of people. You'll see it in the pictures. Right off the top of my head, I can't name everybody, but there was a lot of people. No, that it was really a blessing the way that went down, and we made that decision on a Saturday morning at a board meeting to tear the church down. The middle of the next week, Norm Becker called me. So it was heaven sent. And the main hiccup would probably be the fact that it's historical, and there'd be some government things you'd have to go work around, right? I mean, the resurrection of that church, I believe, saved the museum. And that's for Mac and Betty.
I'm Susan Whalen, and I was the Member of Parliament from 1983 to 2004. Grew up in Amherstburg when my dad was a Member of Parliament from 62 to 84. He was a member. He had a long history with the Simpsons, both Mac and Betty. And I had a role in the church designation and the church reconstruction. And they approached me as a Member of Parliament first to be designated as a Black historical site, and they were actually one of the first sites in all of Canada designated. I think there were 3 designated at the same time. In November of 1998 or December of 1998. And if I recall correctly, we actually did that ceremony at the neighboring church, not too far away because of the outdoors and the climate at the time. However, then the funding came through in January of 1999 through Human Resource Skills Development back then, which was about $250,000 if I recall, to help restore the church. The church was in dire need. That's why they were looking at demolishing it. There were structural issues, the floor was a problem, and there was the structural issue, if I recall correctly, was one of the walls had major damage and basically had to be rebuilt completely. And there was a gentleman in the community by the name of Louis Scadeller who had been a very big contractor at one time. He got involved. People came and rallied, Norm Becker, people came and rallied for the church when they realized that they were talking about demolishing it. And through the program, we were able to come up with some funding. But it was also a participation program that created jobs. So people in the community were hired to learn skills as part of the restoration. And it's a great thing that happened because it was a community effort. It goes back obviously years to the Simpsons starting and founding it, the people coming together as a community, but overall the construction and the saving of the church was a community effort led by the board here at the North American Black Museum back then, now the Amherstburg Freedom Museum, and it took a lot of wisdom, foresight, determination, and I'm happy that I was able to play a small role at the time. Yes, I was, and it was a very great day. Again, I played a small role, had a role to play as a member of parliament, but growing up in this community, I came to visit the museum when it first opened, back when I was a young teenager, I guess you could say. My dad was the member of parliament. He worked with Mac and Betty Simpson to try and get funding. In fact, his book refers to the 1960s when this was just an idea. And that just shows the determination of the Simpsons and what they did for this community. But the reopening of the church was a wonderful day to be part of because it brought together so many different people, so many different backgrounds, and the community itself could celebrate that they'd saved a historic structure, not only for recognition of the community and the culture and the history of the Black community in Amherstburg and across North America, but the structure itself is architecturally significant and representative of the time of the 1840s, 1850s of the refugee churches, which we all need to continue to remember, otherwise we will forget. I've had the opportunity over the years to attend many of the different events the museum has sponsored, the number of things they've done over Emancipation, a weekend, galas and events, coming here for small, different events, bringing people here. I've had the opportunity to bring some of my former colleagues that were members of parliament or ministers through the area, and this would be a stop because it's vitally important to our history. And sometimes I only wish that our schools in the area would celebrate the history and recognize the history and commemorate it, because if we don't commemorate, if we don't learn about it, we will forget, and it's important that we don't. And what's happening right now in the world, this structure, this place, the church, the museum, the knowledge that it has, it can help. It can help bridge those ties that we need. It can help reach out and make people give people a better awareness of what it's going to take to really deal with the racism issues that we have, not only in North America, but across the world.
Hi, my name is Anika Allen. In 1999, I was hired as a researcher and writer to produce a heritage report for the federal government on the history and restoration of the Nazarene AME Church. When I joined the museum team, the restoration of the church had already begun. I recall seeing articles in the newspaper, and of course I heard about the urgent need to save Nazarene from demolition from my father, who was actively involved on the board of directors at the time. I was in my 20s at the time, but I could feel a risk that our community was about to lose something sacred. Joining the museum team was one way I felt I could contribute to the vital rescue mission. My experience working with the museum staff and board of directors of that time was an honor. I quickly became immersed in a tremendous community mobilization and fundraising effort to save Nazarene. The air around the museum was electric. We were in a race against time to raise money and to begin the restoration. This experience had a huge impact on me as a young woman. In fact, it shaped my career. Today, I am a professional fundraiser, and when I look back on the outpouring of support for Nazarene, I am inspired. This was at least a $1 million capital campaign with urgent timelines, and our community rose to the occasion and exceeded everyone's expectations. This showed me the power people have when they come together. Being on site at the museum daily meant frequently running into Dr. Norm Becker and the team at Becker Engineering, who were a talented and committed group to work with. Norm was tremendously generous to the project, and he always kept things fun. Most importantly, Norm was passionate about saving Nazarene, not just as a historical artifact, but because of what Nazarene represents, freedom, and the untold stories of Black refugee slaves. For 20 years, between the time Nazarene was built in 1848 and the end of slavery in the United States in 1865, this church was a sanctuary in the fullest sense of the word. Nazarene was a part of the Underground Railroad network. This church was made by the hands of refugee slaves. Our ancestors made this holy edifice of love and hope. The message of love and hope transcends time and has a great application even today. But the thing that stands out with me the most about my time at the museum was learning about the sophistication of the AME Church. While poring over primary documents for 6 months to understand the purpose, impact, and history of Nazare, I began to see more clearly the contributions of Black people and how fundamental they were in making Canada. Never in my life had I spent so much time reading and understanding the active role that Black families played in the robust and meticulous AME network. Nazare was a safe house or a way station on the Underground Railroad. And the family names in these documents were the names of station masters. All the names in the report and the documents were familiar and connected to me in some way. All were devoted to the physical, mental, and spiritual liberty of Black people. I honor this because these are the stories that are infrequently told about our people. It was undeniable. Our ancestors did great things. And on the day we unveiled the restored Nazare African Methodist Episcopal Church to the community, the sun was shining bright and people came from all over. It was standing room only. The feeling in the air was like homecoming. Black people hugging and greeting folks they hadn't seen in a while. Pride was pouring out of all of us. I had Black friends who traveled from Toronto to be a part of this historic day. My parents were there. I dressed my daughter in the most beautiful red dress my mother had made. Our children were front and center. We wanted them to see and feel the spirit of our ancestors. It was monumental. We had much to celebrate. We had done more than just restore Nazare. We had also secured National Historic status. I can remember the day we received word from Parks Canada that they were conferring this protective honor on our church. There are 979 National Historic Sites in Canada, and Nazare is one of them. Nazare and our stories of descendants of the Underground Railroad in Amherstburg had entered the Canadian tapestry in a significant way. People from all around would come to learn about this part of Canadian history that demonstrates the tremendous courage and the strength of our freedom-seeking ancestors. Looking back, I realized that this was an opportunity like none other for me. It was making history. To see all levels of government support the restoration was heartening. The generosity of the community was motivating and infectious. It was a tangible demonstration of the power of relationships. Black people held significant relational influence in the community, and with that influence, we saved Nazare AME Church and made it a National Historic Site. The memory of that power will forever stay with me because it reminds me that social progress has always been won by a few outraged, organized, ordinary people. Thank you.
My name is Elise Harding Davis. My connection to the museum goes back to before the museum was built. It actually goes back to having been at some church services at the Nazare as a little girl. However, I am the Curator Administrator Emeritus of the North American Black Historical Museum. I was here from 1991 until 2006 or 8 in that role. But I've been associated with the museum right from the very beginning when it began, truthfully, in 1964. In about 1992, the Nazare African Methodist Episcopal Church was in terrible disrepair. The floor was heaved, the wainscoting was buckled. It just was not safe to be in anymore. And so the board, after I took them on a little tour, because I was the curator at that time, decided we had to go to the city, and they closed it down. Mind you, history of the Nazarene with having the block building built on the side of it in '64, to have it the first historic site, per se. The building wasn't in good shape for many, many years. The Nazarene Church was lovingly built by former slaves and oppressed blacks, largely from the United States of America. It represents a beacon of hope and light because it was, for some, the first building they came into as free people. It was part of the Underground Railroad. It was built by blacks. The material, the stone from the Nazarene, came from the Thurman Quarry, which was a black-owned quarry just outside of Amherstburg in a little community called Gordon. And it was the school, the religious center, civic center, a place where people learned how to be an actual part of society, because in slavery you weren't given that opportunity, and also where they learned to read and write, from infants to octogenarians. Simply, it couldn't be more important, not just to the community, but to North America. Well, when we decided that we had to put a do not enter sign on the building, which was really traumatic, there was an article in the paper, and the community was overwhelmingly supportive. We got monies. When the restoration of the Nazarene Church was finished, and we called the fundraiser the Resurrection of Nazarene, we collected over $4.5 million. That's in terms of monies from the government, monies from the municipality, monies, federal, provincial, municipal, private citizens donating, down to a little boy who gave us 27 cents. I mean, it was just so wonderful. And the service in kind, there were so many touching stories, there was so much enthusiasm and determination that that church was not going to fail. When people found out, oh my God, that place is going to get lost, they really rallied around. Now, as for the people who were involved in the actual reconstruction, Susan Whalen was an MP at that time. And of course, her father, Eugene, this place was in his heart. He helped to fundraise for the museum. A man by the name of Norm Becker, Norbert K. Becker, engineer, called me up. And he said, Elise, I hear the church is in really bad repair. He says, I'm going to help you restore it. Seriously, I am. Can you send me a little bit of material? I said, yeah, I sure can. Faxed him 207 pages. So Norm had a subcontracting network like you wouldn't believe, and all subcontractors worked for their materials only. That was the official ruling. What actually happened is many of the subcontractors did a lot free of charge, pro bono. And so that's how a little humble church was taken care of like a palace. I just can't say enough good about it. It was one of the most thrilling, edifying events in my life. And then to have it named a National Historic Site, the first Black National Historic Site in the history of this country. It was just wonderful. This place is a source of renewal, pride and true satisfaction that Black history was finding its proper place. It was just such a joyous, congenial celebration. I can't tell you what an extraordinary event to come through this building that the Black community had raised money for. Have Black youth guide people through and look at the exhibits that had been put together with Black hands through Black initiative, and have our history laid out in such a wonderful fashion, and have our white neighbors, white associates, white business people as thrilled as we were. As a couple, they really clicked. Mac and Betty, I'd known since I was a little girl. Mac was very prideful of being Black. And anything Mac was interested in, Betty was interested in. They were quite a couple. And they were very determined. He wanted something tangible that was positive for the Black community. Getting back again to the day that this place opened, you have never seen such a wonderful multicultural gathering ever. Because Mac and Betty were such a wonderful couple, and they were the co-founders. Plain and simple. After the museum opened, there was enthusiasm to keep it open. We really hadn't gotten into the museum business per se at that time. 1985, I was hired as a museum assistant, and Barbara Habib was the curator at that time, and I wrote all the policies and procedures. And we were accepted to the Ontario Museum Association, first Black group to have that happen, 1988, I believe. And between 85 and 88, I took museum studies. I paid for all that myself. I was on the board of directors. Everybody who was involved here was involved here. I can remember sitting at that front desk, hoping the phone would ring, hoping somebody come in the door. And then I can remember buses lined around the block. It had just exploded and started bringing tours up from Chicago. Then we started getting tours from Arkansas, Florida, New Hampshire, all up the eastern seaboard. Then we started doing the connecting of families and trading Underground Railroad stories and going and finding our roots back in the United States on the plantations. It was just phenomenal. It was so breathtakingly swift, and yet it was just right. When you look at the exhibits and you turn it around so that you can get the Black content, you learn a whole new story, a whole section of history, and it all fits like this. And that's the way it's supposed to be. I can't imagine anyone ever walking in this place and leaving without learning something. I think that people should really appreciate how high this place has oscillated in society. It was also an explosion in us, the Black community, deciding that we were going to actually give our information. A lot of the artifacts are here. People just walked in with them in a brown paper bag or in a box, or, you know, come to my house and get this, and you sit down and they tell you the story, and here it is.
In the 45 years since the Amherstburg Freedom Museum has been in existence, we have experienced the loss of members, friends, donors, and supporters. As we look back, some faces are no longer seen, words no longer heard, but we still remember them and their many contributions to the organization. We are grateful for their service to the museum, as they, no doubt, have left memories and made a substantial impact on who we are today. They will forever remain in our hearts. Well, it looks like we are coming to the end of this portion of our celebration. At 1 p.m., you are invited to stop by for our open house on the museum grounds. Admission is by donation, and you must register in advance through Eventbrite. There's still time to get your ticket, but they are limited. The auction officially closes September 28th, so you can still bid on items until then. Thank you for your attention and participation today. We look forward to sharing the next 45 years with you.